So if you like me and do a ton of editing, from time to time you might also go ahead and check out Taran from LTT. Yes, the macro key king. And well, checking him out, seeing the way that he does his work, obviously I want to improve my own job, be faster at it, be better at it. And that's where I got the bright idea to get this. This is the Logitech G600 MMO Mouse. A bulky, not so stylish mouse that, well, it's got 20 keys and up to 39 programmable functions, all in a handheld package. So buckle up and I'll explain why. Alright, so imagine for a second that you run a YouTube channel. That means a lot of work. It means you've got to write, you've got to go ahead and shoot the film, like we're doing right now. It means you've got to go ahead and edit it. If you're somebody that does large formats on a not so great internet connection, you might even have to go ahead and transcode that footage from H.264 to H.265. Maybe you also do some streaming on the side. You get the point. You start to really add up the amount of programs that you end up using and also the amount of keys that you end up using. Now, of course, that means that you're going to have to eventually remember an absolute ton of keyboard shortcuts, but there's a bit of a way around that. Rather than having to have 1,000,001 keyboard shortcuts for all your 1,000,001 programs, if you could go ahead and have the ones that you do generally use all the time, like cut, copy, paste, start, stop, basic stuff, all the very simple functions that are still assigned to a keyboard shortcut, that's something like Control-V, if you could have all that assigned to a single button, and then just have a keypad or something to go ahead and have that. Now, most people, they might end up getting one of those fancy, like, Razer keyboards where it's like 12 or something macro keys. Again, pretty nice. Or an Elgato Stream Deck for when they're streaming. Again, I can see where the appeal is, but that's not really the kind of thing that I want to go ahead and do. I mean, if I've got two hands, I can't really go ahead and grow a third one to use a Stream Deck on the side whilst I'm doing everything else in between. And that's where this actually comes in. The Logitech G600, it's got a full keypad down the side of it with some, I think it's 16 keys, plus the extra keys that you've actually got on, on the mouse itself. Combine that with its G-Shift ability, you essentially double the amount of keys you have. So, of course, rather than using this for an MMO like most people do, what if I could use this for actual productivity, Instead of reprogramming all the keys to playing, I don't know, World of Warcraft or whatever MMOs people actually play these days, if I instead reformatted it to all of my editing functions. So, after getting my mouse, well, I got to work, of course, plugging it into my PC, downloading the Logitech G Hub, and, well, setting up a couple of profiles. Now, like I said, you've got up to 39 functions across 2 profiles, obviously, excluding the G-Shift key, or whatever the hell they call it, because that switches in between profiles, so that one's basically null and void. So you've got 39 keys, including that, or 38 keys across your 2 profiles that you can actually customize. Now, what I decided to do was, considering I do a lot of work first, rather than gaming these days, because that's life for you, I'm going to go ahead and edit it so that my first profile will be all of my editing functions, so stuff like save, save as, cut, copy, paste, the various tools, such as cut, drag, slide, ripple edit, which is a really nice one, and other things like adding effects, a lot of my very basic, but very, 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 very commonly used pieces of kit. But moving on from that, on my second profile, that's where I had all of my gaming and multimedia functions. So as you can see, we've also got 2 buttons in the middle. Now you see what I've got it set to is so that, as standard, it will be the standard 2 buttons. But when you switch over to profile 2, they become your volume up and down. Combine that with the top 4 keys, so that's the keys along the top. That gives me play, previous, skip, all your basic, keys that you need for playing MP3s and, playing your music, which is kind of nice when you're gaming or when you're actually working, because it gives you something to do in the background whilst you're typing. And the rest of the keys, well, that's still like 8 or so keys, which is more than enough. It means I can toggle my on-screen display for, well, not OBS, but for Afterburner, because I often use that to go ahead and get an idea of performance metrics and make sure stuff's running properly. I can also use it to engage shadow play, which is, of course, NVIDIA's proprietary nonsense, because everything's proprietary these days. on how they go ahead and record gameplay in the background. So it's how I record all of my gameplay footage, because I just prefer using it over OBS, to be honest. And then that still leaves 6 keys, which is basically all my stream keys. One of them starts the stream and also starts the recording, because I record both just in case. And the other one stops it, and of course stops the recording. And the other 4 switches in between my various scenes. So already I've filled up pretty much all the keys, and all this sounds great in theory, you know. You've got all the keys in the world, you can do whatever you want. But how does it work in practice? Alright, starting off then with, well, its main purpose, for editing. Well, first things first, it's a learning curve, because, of course, I've gone from knowing all my keyboard shortcuts off the top of my head, and you automatically go and do what you know. You know, it's something that you're used to doing, so you'll go, if you want to go ahead and save, you'll go Control S or Control S, whatever it is for save as. You get my point. But of course, I don't need to do that anymore. Everything's there, which means my other hand can do other stuff. So, just dropping it casually. So of course, it's a bit of a learning curve, remembering that I don't need to use this hand, instead I can just use this hand. And when I do actually get into the groove of things, you know, using this hand for literally everything, and then this one for anything else like typing or extras, it actually really does speed up my workload. I think it manages to cut time between 20 and 35%, if I remember rightly from when I did a little bit of a time test. You know, it's not an insignificant amount of time saved. Of course, it's still doing the same job, but the difference is I'm not having to constantly go in between keyboard shortcuts, and it also still leaves a hand free. Which means, whereas before, when I did editing, it was very much I sit down and that's all I can do job. Now I've mostly, for the most part, got my hand free, which means I can actually drink or eat or, you know, do anything. But yeah, so, generally speaking, like I said, big learning curve, but once I get into it and remember most of the functions that I've got assigned to it, it really does speed up my workload. No longer am I having to right-click, then hit delete, or select something and then go ahead and find the delete key on my keyboard because it's over to the right, whereas most of the shortcuts are on the left. You know, it cuts down time here and there, and you know, especially when you're editing a large portion of footage, because a lot of my footage these days is simply recorded in one large chunk and then chopped down rather than doing multiple takes like I used to do. You know, it helps save time there. Okay, on its second task, which of course is mainly for gaming and benchmarking. Well, obviously gaming, it is a gaming mouse, which means you have got multiple DPI settings, which is actually really nice. It means in certain games where, you know, you need to move around quickly like an FPS, you can go ahead and bump the DPI up to max and you will basically hit everything on the screen, because you can basically look left and right super freaking quickly. Of course, outside of just pure being able to use it as a gaming mouse, because it's a gaming mouse, for benchmarking and for other things, it also sees a marked improvement. It means, of course, when I'm, let's say, playing XCOM and I want to record some gameplay, instead of go ahead and interrupting my hands in that look, because of course they're set on the keys I'd normally use for XCOM, is I can literally just go click, click, and all of a sudden I'm recording. That's a lot faster. It's a lot easier. Not to mention, it starts to get really intuitive as to when you want to start recording on the fly. Plus, also when I'm actually playing other games that I'm not actually recording, if I want to save something because something looks kind of cool, it's a lot quicker to get to than trying to go ahead and find the keys for it. Alternatively, in game benchmarking as well, it makes it a lot quicker to go ahead and get up all of my on-screen display stuff, because it's all programmed to one single button. Rather than having to go ahead and find, you know, make sure that I've got I can't even remember the button combinations. It's one of those things, you know, when you know it from muscle memory, but you can't remember the actual... You get my point, though. It's a lot faster just simply have it right there and then. And of course, I can turn it off if I want to also then record some of this, so I can go ahead and throw it into some B-roll footage later on. So yeah, for gaming as well, it's actually a really marketable? Either way, it's a big improvement, and I'll leave it there. So finally, its last major role for me is controlling my streams, and whether I'm streaming Ratchet & Clank, which I promise I will finish soon, or I'm streaming in general. Whatever it is that I'm happening to, be streaming, because of course I'm using my brand new gaming mouse that's got all these things, it makes life a lot easier, because everything's on hand. Like, there's not many games where you're not going to be using the mouse, and because of that, everything is always on hand all the time, so it's as simple as Okay, right, start the stream, click. Make sure everything's running fine. Okay, it looks like we can actually start, and then switch to the scene. It's just another click away. It's really intuitive. And for that, honestly, I really like it. But of course, what this will always boil down to, so, is it worth it? Well, for me, I can't say no. Seriously, this thing is so freaking worth it for me and my workload. I actually kind of want to get a second one simply so I don't have to unplug this one every time I go away with my travel rig, which you'll be seeing an update video of very soon. But, you know, for me in particular, it's a very good use case. Not to mention it's got a really stupid but very cool feature. So, of course, you can see it's got lighting on the side for each of the keys, so you can actually see it in the dark, which is, you know, kind of thoughtful of Logitech. The stupidest feature, it's got an audio visualizer. So you can go ahead and have it set so it'll display a certain color for a certain color level. I've got it so green is like low audio, yellow is mid-range, and then red is very, very loud. Which is just really too entertaining for me. Seriously, audio visualizers are really cool, but the question of where it is useful for you, that is a very different one. Because obviously, you're not me. I don't know what you need. But what I can generally infer is that not too many people are going to be doing, you know, video editing all the time, and therefore aren't going to need a mouse that can have everything assigned to it. Or if they do, they might just prefer using keyboard shortcuts anyway. You know, that's down to them. Or they might have an entire keyboard for macro keys, much like Taran. You know, for people that are doing regular gaming or even streaming, they might just get an Elgato Stream Deck and have a different mouse. You know, it's completely up to you. If you're playing MMOs, hell yeah, I can see the appeal for this for MMOs. Seriously, the ease of use and having everything on hand, especially in something like that where it could be quite fast-paced at times, that is very useful. Or even something like a flight simulator or War Thunder, anything where you've got an absolute ton of keys, having a huge majority of them assigned to your hand instantaneously. Even though it's 40 keys, it actually isn't that hard to remember once you get used to it. So, again, I actually highly recommend it for those kind of games. But for most general games like first-person shooters, or, you know, Minecraft, whatever, it's more simple games that really don't require an absolute ton of keyboard input in general, it's just simple walking around looky lefty righty, it's probably not the mouse for you. Because this is also a very bulky mouse, it does actually weigh a fair bit, and whilst I do like a heavy mouse, I know a lot of people like a light mouse. If you like how this sounds, and these are the kind of features that you want, get this. If not, I'd recommend something like the Logitech G502. No, this isn't sponsored by Logitech, I'm just going off what I know from people and how they felt with their own mice before I made my decision. So yeah, if you want a absolutely superior gaming mouse, get a G502. If you want a superior gaming mouse that is for MMOs or anything that requires a lot of keyboard shortcuts, get a G600. If you're a person like me who also does a lot of editing, get a G600. And well, last, if you just don't want to spend anything, seriously, just any mouse will do most of the time. Like, even the cheapest mouses, cheapest mouses, whatever. Even the cheapest ones these days are actually pretty damn decent and will do a job more than well enough in gaming. Like, hell, I still use this because it's a good mouse. It works for me, and hey, whilst it is super cheap, it does its job well enough, and that's all that you really need for a mouse most times. This, of course, is a bit of a luxury, because this cost me a small fortune for a mouse, but so far, I'd say it's worth it, and it's paid itself off. But yeah, worth it, that's for you. I've told you my recommendations, and that is where I'm going to go ahead and call the video. So, like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Any thoughts or questions, leave in the form of comments down below. Don't forget, of course, that anything featured today, there will be a link down in the description in case you want to get it yourself. I'll also leave a link for the G502 in case you want to go ahead and pick that up instead. Don't forget to check out my Facebook, Patreon, and of course my Twitch pages, as I am streaming and could start streaming again soon. But you know, I'm terrible. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more content from me, and as always, this is the 170th Con, signing off. Have a brilliant day, folks, stay safe, and I will catch you all next time.